Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expanse Abridged Podcast series. Today we've got chapter 26, which is a Miller chapter of the first book, Leviathan Wakes. So the last time we were with the gang, they'd all been together, which is obviously very exciting. All the boys, Miller and Holden, but they'd been dicking about on Eros. I think they're on at the moment, and they saw Julie Mao. So they saw they're supposed to go find her, Miller's gal. And then they find her and she's turned into like a fungus, basically. It's got tentacles and shit. And they all get shot at, and then they have a little bonding experience. And it all kind of goes tits up. So you found Julie, there's aliens, it's like, holy shit, what is going on? And we're now kind of in the aftermath of dealing with that. So this chapter opens 26. And they're kind of dealing with the outside of that. And Holden has realised his ship, the Rocinante, has been put in a lockdown order by Sema Timber, who was the police officer who helped them get out of the last Cuscuffle. He was like Miller's old mate. A Cuscuffle, not a scuffle, a Cuscuffle. And Miller's like, Holden's like, I thought you sold this. I thought you got us out of that with your secret police handshake. Why is my ship in lockdown? Miller's like, look, we can dick about in the station. We can stay how we want. But until the investigation's over, he isn't going to get fired. The ship is going to be in lockdown. So can we get to the part where I try and rent a room? Because he wants transport. Holden and I are pretty sceptical straight away, and Miller's kind of bricking it because he says he's only got enough money for a good dinner or a night in a hotel room, but not both, and he was spending half of what he had left on a cheap breakfast for Holden and his crew to try and get some goodwill. And Holden's there being like, yo, what the fuck are you on about? Are you saying you want to ruin my ship to rent, or are you saying you'll only let my ship go like if you give me a room? Because that's blackmail, and then Amos has to correct him being that's extortion. Blackmail's relying information leaking, extortion's just like a threat. And Miller's like, no, I've got fuck all plans, I'm low on plans, I assume you're going to go find Julie's asteroid, because they found out what was going on there. I just kind of want to come with you, please. And that's basically what he's like, I've got nothing else to do. Amos is like, yeah, calm, I haven't got any good plans either, I've been fucked 18 different ways since we got into this. And Holden kind of surmises that Miller is an angry, bitter old man, but given he's been working on water haulers for 5 years, he's pretty happy with that. And the only issue he really has is I've been shot at a lot. He says, I've been shot at loads, I'm pretty upset about that. I'm not letting anyone on my ship I wouldn't trust with my life, and I don't actually know you. Miller then goes very strangely straight into, I can get the money. If it's money, I can cover it. Which to which Naomi's like, what do you mean get money? Why don't you have money? And then Miller goes on like this weird 2-page rant about how you can go to the port, find some bets that the police are in. And the guys always keep the odds good for the police because it's illegal betting. So if the police win, they won't report them. And he knows who the cops are, so he can go and just kind of join that bet. And as he's explaining this, which it doesn't make any sense, and it was not a very good idea, and everyone's skeptical. The gang, so everyone but Big Boy Miller, Big Boy Miller, get a little message on their phones, on their terminals, and it's our boy Fred, our favourite boy, our big boy Fred. And he says, I caught a mole in the Tycho comm station. Your presence and destination have been leaked to unknown people, which, no shit, that's how there's an ambush. And in the previous, a chapter or two ago now. And he's like, the mole's encryption found a message, like he sent a message, or they received a message, and the guys on the station said, Holden escaped, but payload sample recovered, repeat, sample recovered, moving to stage 3. They're all kind of there like, what is stage 3? And obviously the payload kind of implies Julie, like they recovered the body after the gang left. But they're kind of musing about that. And they discuss if it's taking over, it must be a bioweapon, is it taking over Eros Station? But they kind of discuss it's not particularly useful. So we had like a chapter or two ago, a big description about how it's basically a gambling and brothel area. And if you go onto it dead, you could, because it's a rock, you can just crack it open with a bomb, like an egg, which they mentioned quite a few times. And so it's not a military base, but it is a shipping hub, and it's not under OPA control. And they're like, okay, they must be shipping it out to go somewhere else. So whatever the original target was, like maybe they can go somewhere else with because it's got loads of ships. Even if it's not a military point, they can go somewhere else. Is that kind of their idea? And Miller's kind of shaking his head. Something feels wrong in that change of logic, i.e. it doesn't feel right. So his spidey senses are tingling because, or even though he's not, he just like to think he's a very good detective. And he sits there and his imaginary Julie appeared across the room, but her eyes were dark black filaments pouring down her cheeks like tears. What am I looking at here, Julie? He thought. I'm seeing something here, but I don't know what it is. Then there's a small vibration, like a transport tube's brakes, Everyone in the hotel went silent with the sudden shared dread of thousands of people made aware of their fragility in the same moment, and klaxons start throughout the station. So they come on, and because it's obviously all made of rock and hard surfaces, there's really bad echoes, and the klaxons are like a really stilted voice because of that. And everyone, because they've spent all this time on these rocks, is immediately moving into the deeper into the station, because the klaxon's saying you must go down to the casino level for radiological safety confinement. So there's been a radiation leak, so they've got to go deeper into the station, I think is the idea. And Holden's like, fuck, they're going to kill the station, like these evil bad guys they don't really know about. I thought it was the ships. Like, he's been on ships and they're trying to blow up what about stations, that's different. And but then the kind of smarter people, and then more turned on, Miller and Naomi, are like, they didn't crack it. I can still hear you talking, so there's still air pressure. And anything that would break the air pressure on a station this big would crack it open like an egg, which they say again, because it's a big rock. So it would go all the way through the middle, so it's only a radiation leak in the outer areas. Alex chimes in with an anecdote, I think it's the first time he's spoken in this chapter so far, about he was once on a spaceship where they had a rad leak for a month, 30 people in a single shelter. There's 18 people in a shelter, 36 days. 6 of them got married and the rest of us never spoke again. And as they're running down, they see more security guards, and the security guards are being typical belter kind of security, which is do what I say and nobody gets hurt, and pointing guns at everybody the entire time. And trying to get everyone down to the shelters, as they're discussing, and they realise there won't be, much like the Titanic, well, there won't be enough room in all the shelters for everybody, because the station will have so many tourists, etc. It'll only have kind of capacity for like 250,000 people, it says. When I think we found out a while ago there'd be millions more in the station with all the casinos and whatnot. So the gang then immediately decide, fuck it, let's go to the Rocinante. And as they're kind of discussing that, Miller's staring at security guards. And he sees them, he says 2 of them pointed guns at the crowd. Miller was more tempted to go and slap them for doing it, because like it would create some panic. One of the security men was also far too wide for his gear. The Velcro with a capital V as well. So even in the far, far future, you gotta respect those trademarks. The Velcro fasteners at his belly, reaching out for each other like lovers at the moment of separation. And he looked down at the floor, and the back of his mind was suddenly powerful and busy. I mean, it's like he remembers that Sematimba said the new security force was all bluster, no balls, corrupt. Meat for the machine, Carne pour la machina was the name. And he looks at the security guard, and he's got a scar that went from one eyelid down almost to the joint of his jaw. Miller knew him. A year and a half ago he'd arrested him for assault and racketeering, and the equipment, armour, batons, riot guns, also looked hauntingly familiar. Doors had been wrong. Miller had been able to find his own missing equipment after all. And he kind of also realises that's the equipment that had come from Ceres when it had been originally. It's all gone missing. It's the same people that had been arrested. And he goes, what? It'd been going on a long time before the Canterbury had picked up the distress call from the Scopuli. A long time before Julie had vanished, and putting a bunch of Ceres station thugs in charge of Iris crowd control using stolen Ceres station equipment had been part of the plan. The third phase. And they've started shouting. The gunmen are shouting, "You have to go to the casino level. You must go to the casino level." And Miller's immediately starting panicking. He's thinking, "I need to be calm. I need to interrupt." He needs to reach out to Holden because their crew's trying to figure out how to get to the Rocinante. And in a small lull in the crowd, he reaches over, grabs Holden by the elbow, and says, "Don't go." Good little chapter that. So the gang's kind of moving. We've had a really big exogenous event of the alarms going off, and about to see some freaky shit happen on Eros. So I hope you enjoyed that. The song for the week is Limitless by SBT RKT. Apparently it's Subtract. I think it's Subuktet. That's a very, very good song, so I encourage you to listen to it. And I hope you have a lovely week.